Today we are talking about some freaking mind-blowing art tips. While we're talking about those, we're going to be going through some of my art experiments from throughout the week. Sketchbook pages, some Will Cotton candy cloud studies, the works. Yeah, get out your notebook because you're going to want to take some notes. Let's get started. I've been thinking about some really important concepts lately. Art, how I measure my success, my values, mediocrity, the pressure to be exceptional and have your dream life, motivation, my insecurities, my identity. I'm an overthinker, what can I say? In some ways this has been a very hard year for me, but also I am definitely by far the happiest I've been in my life. Maybe minus the days when playing outside on a swing fulfilled my every desire. But honestly, that movie Inside Out, totally spot on about that whole sadness and joy thing going together hand in hand. Maybe this is embarrassing to admit, but I care a lot about being liked. And if I'm measuring my success in this by the metric of everyone liking me, well, I definitely failed this year. As ridiculous as this expectation is, that failure has been really bumming me out. So recently I decided to take time to get rid of some of the unnecessary baggage I've been carrying around, and I started reading this book. It's called, pardon the expletive, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a You know what that word is. What I didn't expect about going into this book was how relevant it was to art. I mean, the context is different, but after all, art is in the title. I feel like the things I'm about to share with you are serious game changers for me in my life and art career, so welcome to my summary of these mind-blowing art tips. Let's start with a question. What do you want out of life? Your answer is likely to be very similar to most people. Happiness, comfort, freedom. What's different for most people is what problems they want in life. When we picture our dream lives, we often envision the reward, but not the struggle. The result without the process. Probably the most important thing you should consider when you're grasping at this confusing existential question of what should I do with my life is, what are my values? The job you have, whether it's your dream job or not, is the job you'll stress over. So do you enjoy the problems that come with being an artist? If you're happy to struggle for the problems it offers, the self-doubt, instability, dedication of countless hours with the risk of no payout, often the cultural and familial disapproval, then you could end up really successful. When I was an art teacher, I loved the benefits. I had a consistent paycheck, money going into savings, I felt like a real adult with a real job, but I didn't love the problems. I wasn't passionate about the work, so all the extra hours I put in for it felt like just a distraction from what I was really passionate about, painting. I also didn't love the regulations and the state requirements I had to fill, and more than anything, I didn't like the insecurities it brought up in myself. My lack of authority, my fear of authority, my constant crippling desire to be liked at all costs. Now, I was a good teacher in a lot of ways, and there were many things I liked. Mainly the art and the kids. But at the end of the day, I was not willing to endure through the hard learning curve of being a truly excellent school teacher. So later I picked the problems I was willing to endure through, and for me, it's all the insecurities of being an artist, and now a YouTuber too. Being an artist has, of course, brought a number of problems into my life that I didn't foresee. Artist block, struggling to get noticed, comparing myself to others, self-discovery, going through shifts in my art style, feeling like a failure. Where do I start in going through all of these? Let's go with feeling like a failure. When you work for yourself, you have to be your own boss. You measure your own level of success day to day. You depend on your success to pay the bills. If you fail, it's scary. Some days I go to the studio and fail all day long. I don't make a single thing I like. I end up painting over everything I tried to make, and the day feels like an utter waste of necessary and valuable time. And this is such a bad perspective. The author of The Subtle Art, Mark Manson, gave the example of a writer who cited his literary success to writing just 200 crappy words a day. If he was feeling overwhelmed by the task of writing a book, he would use action as his motivator and find success in the simple act of creating. I've been applying this principle to my art practice since then, and it's been awesome. If I keep making only good art as my measure of success, I will never be able to allow myself to try new things. Growth requires mistakes and practice. So instead, now I try to measure my day's success by the efforts and hours I put into my work. These are metrics for success I can control and promote my ability to experiment, fail, and learn. Part of the problem I think many people run into making art is 1, a fear of failure, and 2, the ways in which failure challenges their identity. If you're a perfectionist like me and perceive yourself relatively as a good artist, you may struggle to loosen up and take risks because making bad art is a likely result. And making bad art might call into question all of the subconscious ideas you have about what kind of artist you are. On that note, to mention another fear artists struggle with, if you put yourself out there, share your work on social media, open an online store, apply to a show or gallery, you're likely to encounter some forms of rejection. It's scary to do any of these things, but if you do, your subconscious might have to switch gears from identifying as a good but unknown artist to maybe an artist who tried but couldn't sell a single painting, and that sucks. I've been victim to this as well. For a long time, I wouldn't step out of my comfort zone to try to make things I didn't know how to, and I still honestly stopped myself from doing this. And I took longer to open my Patreon because, well, what if no one joined it and I just embarrassed myself? People who don't try and subsequently don't have failures also rob themselves of their potential and of possible successes. Be proud of yourself for going after what you want, and don't give so many F's about the things that aren't really that important. If you identify too heavily with some part of your life, you create blind spots for yourself that may keep you from achieving greater happiness. Beyond just in art, here's a more average life example. At times we have unhealthy relationships, right? If you want to be a well-liked or kind person, you may believe that it would counter your self-identity as a nice or virtuous person to distance yourself from a relationship. This is a time where you should question your values. Being virtuous or kind is a good goal, but your metric for measuring success in that area of your life may be wrong. You can still be a good person and make decisions to end unhealthy relationships. This may require hard conversations and hearing opinions about yourself that hurt, but we're not entitled to be happy all the time, and difficult discussions and experiences are requisite for our ultimate happiness. You can't have a good relationship without putting in the work of difficult conversations and sometimes dealing with feeling rejected and misunderstood. To have a better communication and be able to express your needs and fears, you have to establish an openness and learn how to talk about hard things. But let's bring this back to the idea of motivation. If you can let go of your fear of failure, instead of waiting for a motivation to lead you to act now, and let action increase your motivation. After you start, more ideas will flow, improvement will happen, and as we said earlier, if you can find your success in the effort you put in rather than in how good your product is, you'll begin to see growth and find motivation in this success. The internet is a glorious thing, but in addition to all the wonderful that it gives us access to, it also inundates us with visions of the exceptional. Because the internet is so filled with information, only the most incredible stories rise to the top and get our attention. At the click of a finger, we can instantly find thousands of people who don't struggle with our same problems, who are off inventing apps and making millions overnight, going viral from their incredible talents, winning their dream lives in an instant. On top of that, we hear time and again from our favorite celebrities that everyone can be exceptional. We all have the power to be amazing and accomplish our dreams. This often leads us to believe that our lives are not valuable unless they're exceptional. In the words of Mark Manson, average is the new standard of failure. Because of this, we are brainwashed into thinking we must be exceptional to matter. And if we don't match this idea, if our lives are average, or if we have the problems that all these people on the internet seem not to struggle with, that often makes us think there's something wrong with us, which leads to a whole other problem that I fell victim to as a teen. Because I wasn't exceptional in positive ways, I based my worth on the idea that I must be exceptional in negative ways. My problems must be bigger, more unique than anyone else. No one understood how hard it was to be me, and from that I gained a weird sense of being important and special, but not in any way that made me happy. Sadness often comes from assumed inability to solve our problems. The way to solve this? Take responsibility over your life. An analogy Mark Manson made, a baby may be left on your porch one night. Now this isn't necessarily your fault, but regardless, it is now your responsibility. You have to choose how to help this infant, how you react, who you call, whether you keep it, whether you leave it there and just let someone else deal with it. But you have control and you have the decision to make. When bad things happen in our lives, when we feel inadequate or like a failure, it's our responsibility to figure out the next step and take charge of our happiness. Even if you don't win the lottery or design a viral app, happiness can come from ordinary and average things in our lives. In fact, maybe the ordinary is ordinary because it's what really matters. Quiet time with friends, taking care of people who matter to you, working to support your family, or watching TV with your partner. Having a so-called mediocre or average life is a wonderful thing. We spend so much time promoting the idea of obtaining an exceptional life, but what if all you really want is an average life? So many self-help books focus on what we don't have and what we want. But in seeking happiness this way, we often focus on what we lack rather than appreciating our lives as they are. If you always believe you'll only be happy once you've achieved something or obtained something, then you can never see your life for the happiness it gives you currently. And since when is average a dirty word or considered the new standard of failure? I want to fight that idea in myself so I can enjoy life more. Anyways, let's summarize the main things I wanted to share with you. 1. What problems do you want? Remember the value of the process, not just the reward. 2. Base your feeling of success on something you can control. Progress, effort, mistakes, not perfection. 3. What fears are holding you back? Are you avoiding a risk because you're afraid of how it challenges your self-identity? 4. Let action precursor your motivation, because action breeds motivation. 5. Take responsibility for everything in your life. Bad things happen, it may not be your fault, but you can choose your response. 6. Problems are normal. There's nothing wrong with you. No one is happy all the time. You need to work through hard things to reap the reward. 7. Focus on gratitude for what you have now versus what you lack. And lastly, 8. Give your F's to things that matter. Not all negativity in your life deserves attention. Make sure you give your energy to the things that really count. That concludes this week's video. If you guys are interested in liking, subscribing, new videos come out every single Friday. And if you guys are interested in joining my Patreon, I really appreciate the support a ton. Plus there's tons of fun stuff going on over there for you guys, so you can check out the link in the end screen in the description. Let me know what you guys thought about all the topics we talked about. If it's anything worth what I hyped it up to be, because I think it is. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I have more problems than you guys. Okay, I'll see you guys next Friday. Goodbye.